Chapter 1. Accept that distraction is a choice. Section 1. The lie of the victim. We begin here because, without this foundation, the rest of this book is useless. Most people walk through their lives under the impression that distraction is an external force, a predator that hunts them down. They say things like, "I was trying to work, but my phone rang," or "I was going to finish that report, but an email popped up and I got distracted." Listen closely. You did not get distracted. You chose to be distracted. The word distracted is often used as a passive verb, as if it is something that happens to you. But in the architecture of the human mind, distraction is an active transaction. It is a trade. You are trading your long-term goals, your self-respect, and your future success for a 5-second hit of cheap dopamine. When you say, "I got distracted," you are placing yourself in the role of a victim. You are claiming that a shiny piece of glass in your pocket or a notification on your screen has more power over your life than you do. You are admitting that you are a passenger in your own brain. This is the mindset of the mediocre. To become someone who cannot be moved, you must first accept the cold, hard truth. You are an active participant in your own downfall. Every scroll through a feed, every click on a suggested video, and every time you look away from your deep work to check a text, that is a conscious decision. You are the one who moved your thumb. You are the one who shifted your gaze. Section 2. The neuroscience of the choice. Why do we choose it? If we know it hurts us, why do we keep doing it? Because your brain is wired to seek the path of least resistance. Deep work, the kind of work that builds empires, writes books, and solves complex problems, is hard. It requires a high caloric burn from your brain. It feels heavy. It feels uncomfortable. Distraction, on the other hand, is easy. Your brain is a dopamine-seeking missile. When you are faced with a difficult task, your brain experiences a micro-moment of stress. To alleviate that stress, it looks for a quick exit. The phone, the notification, the quick check of the news, these are escape hatches. When you choose distraction, what you are actually doing is choosing comfort over growth. You are choosing the easy path of a consumer over the hard path of a creator. You must realize that your environment is not your master. There are people who can focus in the middle of a war zone, and there are people who can't focus in a soundproof library. The difference isn't the environment, it's the internal decision to stay or to flee. Section 3. The tale of two performers. Imagine two people. Let's call them Person A and Person B. Both are sitting in the same crowded, noisy airport terminal. There are announcements blaring over the speakers every 3 minutes. There are children crying, people rushing past, and the hum of 100 different conversations. Person A has their laptop open. They are trying to write a business proposal. Every time the speaker crackles, they look up. Every time a person walks by with a loud suitcase, they sigh and roll their eyes. They check their phone just for a second to escape the noise. An hour passes. They have written 2 sentences. They close their laptop and complain, "It's too loud here. I can't get anything done. I'm too distracted." Person B is sitting 3 seats away. They have the same laptop, in the same noise, under the same conditions. But Person B has made a choice. They have decided that for the next 60 minutes, the only thing that exists in the universe is the cursor blinking on their screen. The announcements become background static. The crying children become white noise. Person B doesn't fight the environment. They simply refuse to participate in it. By the time the flight is called, Person B has finished the proposal. What is the difference? Person A believes they are a victim of the airport. Person B knows they are the master of their attention. Person A allowed the world to dictate their focus. Person B commanded their focus to stay put. Section 4. The core shift. Changing your language. If you want to change your life, you must change your language. Words are the programming language of the mind. As long as you use victim language, you will have a victim mindset. From this moment forward, you must banish the phrase "I got distracted" from your vocabulary. It no longer exists for you. Instead, you will use the language of ownership. When you catch yourself looking at social media when you should be working, do not say, "Oh, I got sidetracked." Say, "I am choosing to prioritize this feed over my goals." When you find yourself answering a non-urgent email in the middle of a deep work session, do not say, "I had to answer this." Say, "I am choosing to allow this person to interrupt my progress." Does that feel uncomfortable? It should. It sounds harsh because it strips away the excuses. It forces you to look in the mirror and realize that you are the one sabotaging your own dreams. But within that discomfort is the greatest power you will ever find. Because if you are the one who is choosing to be distracted, then you are also the only one who can choose to be focused. Section 5. The Ownership Audit. I want you to perform an ownership audit for the next 24 hours. Every single time your attention leaves the task at hand, I want you to stop and say out loud, "I am choosing this." If you are in a conversation with your spouse and your eyes wander to the TV, I am choosing the TV over my relationship. If you are writing a report and you open a new tab to check the news, I am choosing the news over my career. If you are at the gym and you spend 5 minutes sitting on the bench scrolling, I am choosing my phone over my health. By naming the choice, you bring it out of the subconscious and into the conscious. Most distractions happen because we are on autopilot. We drift into them. The ownership audit kills the drift. It forces you to acknowledge the trade you are making. You will find that once you are forced to admit you are choosing the distraction loses its appeal. It's easy to scroll when you think it's just something that happens. It's very difficult to scroll when you have to look yourself in the eye and admit you are trading your greatness for a meme. Section 6. Practical Exercise. The Refusal Repetition. To close this chapter, we must begin the training. Focus is a muscle, and the first exercise is the refusal. Today, find a task that requires 20 minutes of your time. Before you start, set the intention. Say to yourself, "I am the gatekeeper of my mind. Nothing enters without my permission." During those 20 minutes, distraction will show up. Your brain will itch. You will feel the urge to check something, to look up, to move. When that happens, do not fight it with anger. Simply label it. Say, "There is the choice. I refuse it." Repeat this phrase, "I choose this, so I can refuse this." You chose to sit down. You chose the task. Therefore, you have the absolute authority to refuse anything that is not the task. You are not a victim of your environment. You are not a slave to your phone. You are the sovereign ruler of your attention. The world will try to pull at your sleeves. It will scream for your eyes. It will beg for your clicks. Let it scream. Let it beg. You are no longer participating. You have accepted that distraction is a choice, and from this day forward, you choose focus. Chapter 2. Kill the need for constant stimulation. Section 1. The Brain of an Addict. We live in the age of the input junkie. If you were to take a moment and look at the average person's day, you would see a human being who is terrified of 5 seconds of silence. They wake up to an alarm, and before their feet even hit the floor, they are scrolling through a feed. They shower with a podcast playing. They drive with the radio on or a playlist blaring. They eat lunch while watching a video. They go to sleep with the television flickering in the background. This is not staying informed. This is not enjoying media. This is a physiological addiction to stimulation. Your brain has been hijacked by dopamine. Every time you receive a notification, see a new headline, or watch a 15-second clip, your brain releases a hit of dopamine, the novelty chemical. Over years of constant internet use, you have raised your stimulation baseline. You have taught your brain that it should never, ever be bored. The result? Your focus muscle has atrophied. Because you are constantly feeding your brain easy, low-effort stimulation, it has lost the ability to perform high-effort concentration. When you finally sit down to do something that matters, something that requires deep thought, your brain looks at the task, realizes it isn't fun or new, and it begins to itch. It starts screaming for a hit of novelty. This is why you find yourself checking your email for the 10th time in an hour. You aren't looking for information. You're looking for a fix. To become someone who cannot be distracted, you must kill the need for constant stimulation. You must go through the withdrawal of silence. Section 2. The Myth of the Background. Many people tell themselves a lie. They say, "I work better with music," or I need the TV on in the background to focus. Let's be clear, this is a coping mechanism for a weakened mind. When you have background noise playing while you work, you are not increasing your productivity. You are simply dumbing down the silence so your addicted brain doesn't feel the discomfort of effort. True deep work, the kind of work that produces masterpieces, the kind of work that creates wealth, the kind of work that solves the hardest problems, requires every single neuron of your prefrontal cortex. If you are listening to music with lyrics, a part of your brain is processing language. If you are watching a video in the corner of your screen, a part of your brain is processing motion and social cues. You are intentionally leaking your focus. You are operating at 60% capacity because you're too afraid of the 40% of discomfort that comes with total silence. High performers, the top 1% of creators, thinkers, and executors, understand that silence is a tool. They don't need a soundtrack to live their lives. They can sit in a room with a notebook and a pen for 3 hours and not feel the need to reach for a device. They have lowered their stimulation baseline to the point where nothing is a comfortable place to be. If you cannot work in total silence, you are not the master of your mind. You are a slave to your environment. Section 3. The detox, lowering the baseline. To regain control, you must put your brain through a stimulation detox. You have to intentionally starve the dopamine monster until it dies. This starts with the gaps. Think about the small gaps in your day. The 2 minutes you wait for the elevator. The 5 minutes you wait for your coffee. The 10 minutes you spend sitting in your car before walking into the house. What do you do in those gaps? 99% of people reach for their phones. They cannot handle 120 seconds of their own thoughts. This gap filling is what destroys your focus. You are training your brain that every time there is a lull in stimulation, it should be rewarded with a screen. The undistractable mind uses these gaps as training. When you are waiting for the elevator, stay in the gap. Do not reach for your phone. Feel the boredom. Feel the awkwardness of just standing there. Notice the details of the room. Notice your own breathing. You are teaching your brain a vital lesson. Boredom is not an emergency. When you stop filling the gaps with cheap input, your brain begins to recalibrate. Your focus becomes sharper. The itch to check your phone starts to fade. You are lowering your baseline so that when you actually sit down to work, the boring task of writing, coding, or strategizing becomes enough to satisfy your brain. Section 4. The power of the still room. Imagine a room that is perfectly still. There is no music. No humming refrigerator. No phone. Just you and the task. For the average person, this room is a prison. They feel anxious. They feel understimulated. They feel like they are missing out on something. But for the person who cannot be distracted, this room is a temple. It is where the magic happens. In the absence of external input, your internal output explodes. When you stop listening to other people's thoughts, podcasts, music, social media, you finally start to hear your own. This is the unfair advantage. While the rest of the world is drowning in a sea of noise, unable to think a single original thought because their brains are constantly occupied by the next thing, you are operating in the quiet. You are seeing patterns they can't see. You are developing depths of focus they can't reach. If you want to produce work that the world cannot ignore, you must first learn to ignore the world. You must become comfortable with being understimulated. You must learn to crave the silence. Section 5. Practical training, the 30-minute silence. I want you to begin a daily practice called the 30-minute silence. This is not meditation. This is not relaxing. This is focus training. Every day, find a 30-minute block. Sit at your desk or in a chair. No phone. No music. No background noise. You can have a notepad and a pen, or you can have the task you are currently working on. For the first 10 minutes, your brain will scream. It will come up with 1,000 reasons why you should check your phone. It will remind you of an email you need to send. It will make your leg twitch. It will make you feel tired. This is the stimulation withdrawal. Do not move. Do not give in. Somewhere around the 20-minute mark, something incredible happens. The screaming stops. The brain realizes that no hit of dopamine is coming. It settles. It locks in. Suddenly, the task in front of you becomes fascinating. The words start to flow. The problem becomes solvable. You have reached the deep state. This state is only accessible through the gate of boredom. If you aren't willing to walk through the boredom, you will never reach the depth. Section 6. Output over input. The final part of killing stimulation is changing the ratio of your life. Most people have a ratio of 90% input and 10% output. They spend 90% of their time consuming, reading, watching, listening, and only 10% of their time creating or executing. This is why they are constantly distracted. Their input muscle is massive, and their output muscle is weak. The mindset of someone who cannot be distracted requires a flip of that ratio. You must become a producer first and a consumer second. Before you allow any external stimulation into your brain in the morning, you must produce. Before you check the news, input, you must write, output. Before you listen to a podcast, input, you must solve a problem, output. By prioritizing output, you are setting the tone for your brain. You are telling your mind that its job is to exert energy, not just absorb it. You are taking the driver's seat. Section 7. The mantra of the quiet mind. When the world gets loud, and it will, you must have a phrase that brings you back to center. When you feel the urge to put on headphones just to get through a task, stop. When you feel the urge to check your phone while waiting in line, stop. Remind yourself, silence is power. Boredom is training. Every moment of silence you endure is a rep in the gym for your focus. Every time you choose boredom over a cheap distraction, you are becoming stronger. You are building a mind that is dense, heavy, and immovable. Most people are like dry leaves in the wind. Every notification, every song, every trend blows them in a new direction. You are becoming the mountain. The wind can blow, the noise can blare, the world can scream, but the mountain does not move. The mountain is silent. And the mountain has all the power. Kill the need for stimulation. Starve the dopamine monster. Reclaim your silence. The mantra, silence is power. Boredom is training. Chapter 3. Build an identity that does not break focus. Section 1. The most powerful words in the human language. The two most powerful words in any language are I am. Whatever follows those two words determines the trajectory of your life. They are not just descriptors. They are commands to your subconscious mind. They are the programming code that runs the hardware of your brain. Most people walk through the world narrating their failures as if they are permanent personality traits. They say, I've always been easily distracted. I'm just a procrastinator. I have a short attention span. I'm not a morning person. When you say these things, you are not stating a fact, you are placing a bet. You are telling your brain exactly how to behave. Your brain has a deep-seated psychological need to remain consistent with its own identity. If you believe you are a distracted person, your brain will actively look for distractions to prove you right. It will ignore opportunities to focus because focus feels fake to you. It feels like you're trying to be someone you aren't. If you want to become someone who cannot be distracted, you must stop trying to change your actions and start changing your identity. You must stop being a person who is trying to focus and start being a person who is focused. Section 2. The difference between trying and being. There is a profound difference between a person who is trying to quit smoking and a person who says, I'm not a smoker. When the person who is trying is offered a cigarette, they have to have a mental debate. They think, I'm trying to quit, but I really want one. Maybe just one won't hurt. It's been a stressful day. They are relying entirely on willpower. And as we will discuss later, willpower is a finite resource that eventually runs out. But when the person who is not a smoker is offered a cigarette, there is no debate. There is no negotiation. They don't need willpower. They simply say, no thanks, I don't smoke. It's not a struggle, it's a statement of identity. Smoking is no longer a part of who they are. The same applies to your focus. If you are trying to stay focused, you are constantly negotiating with yourself. You sit down to work, and the phone vibrates. You think, I'm trying to work, but I should probably just check who that is. It might be important. I'll just look for 5 seconds. You have already lost. However, if your identity is, I am someone who locks in, I am someone who finishes what they start, then the vibration of the phone is irrelevant. It doesn't trigger a negotiation because a person who locks in doesn't check their phone during a deep work session. It is simply not what they do. Section 3. You fall to the level of your identity. There is a famous quote in the military: you do not rise to the level of your expectations, you fall to the level of your training. In the world of performance, we can adapt this: you do not rise to the level of your goals, you fall to the level of your identity. You can set a goal to work for 4 hours straight. You can write it down, put it on a vision board, and tell your friends about it. But if your internal identity is still someone who is easily distracted, you will fail. The moment the work gets hard, the moment the itch of boredom begins, you will revert to your baseline. You will fall back to who you believe you actually are. Most people treat focus like a jacket they put on when they feel like it. They think they can just decide to be focused for an hour and then go back to being a scattered mess for the rest of the day. It doesn't work that way. Focus is not a jacket. It is your skin. You must build an identity that is so dense, so solid, and so certain that distraction becomes an insult to your character. When someone interrupts you, it shouldn't just be an inconvenience, it should feel like an attack on your very nature. You must protect your focus with the same ferocity that you would protect your reputation or your family. Section 4. The athlete's execution. No mid-game negotiation. Think about an elite athlete in the middle of a championship game. Imagine a quarterback in the pocket. The crowd is screaming, 60,000 people making a deafening roar. There are 300-pound men sprinting toward him with the sole intention of slamming him into the turf. His ribs might be aching. The wind might be blowing. Does the quarterback stop and think, I wonder what people are saying about this play on Twitter right now? Does he think, I'm feeling a little bit bored with this drive, maybe I'll check my messages? Of course not. Why? Because in that moment, his identity is 100% the executor. He is not a person with a phone, he is a quarterback. He is in the in-game state. In this state, there is no such thing as a choice to be distracted. The only thing that exists is the mission. You must bring this same in-game state to your work. When you sit down at your desk, you are no longer a person who is checking things out. You are an athlete entering the field. You are a surgeon entering the operating room. You are a soldier entering the theatre of operations. In these professions, distraction is not a bad habit, it is a fatal error. If a surgeon gets distracted, the patient dies. If a soldier gets distracted, the mission fails. You must start viewing your work with that same level of gravity. Your dreams are the patient. Your future is the mission. If you allow yourself to be distracted, you are allowing your future to die on the table. Section 5. The Locks-in Protocol. How to shift your identity. So, how do you actually change your identity? You cannot just wish it into existence. Identity is built through evidence. Every time you perform an action, you are casting a vote for the person you want to become. If you want to be someone who locks in, you must start providing your brain with evidence that you are that person. Step 1. Small wins. Don't start by trying to focus for 4 hours. Start by deciding that for the next 15 minutes, you are a person who cannot be moved. For those 15 minutes, the world does not exist. If you succeed, you have just cast a vote. You have provided a small piece of evidence. Step 2. Change your self-talk. Monitor your internal monologue. The moment you catch yourself saying, I'm so distracted, stop. Correct yourself immediately. Say out loud, that is not who I am. I am someone who has total command over my attention. It will feel fake at first. That's okay. You are reprogramming a computer. The new code doesn't have to feel true. It just has to be entered correctly. Step 3. Create identity triggers. Athletes have rituals before they go onto the field. They might put on their left shoe first, or listen to a specific song, or tape their wrists a certain way. These aren't just superstitions. They are triggers that tell the brain, the regular person identity is now off. The athlete identity is now on. You need an identity trigger. It could be putting on a specific pair of noise-cancelling headphones. It could be clearing everything off your desk except for one notebook. It could be a specific breathing exercise. Whatever it is, it must signal the transition. It says, the person who scrolls, the person who chats, and the person who worries is now gone. The person who finishes is here. Section 6. The standard versus the goal. A goal is something you want to achieve. A standard is the minimum you are willing to accept from yourself. People with the undistractable mindset don't just have goals. They have incredibly high standards for their own behavior. Their identity is tied to their floor, not their ceiling. If your identity is someone who finishes, then leaving a task 90% done is physically painful to you. It feels wrong. It keeps you up at night. You don't finish the task because you want the reward. You finish it because your identity demands it. Think about a person who is incredibly clean and organized. They don't try to have a clean house. They simply are a clean person. If there is a single dirty dish in the sink, they can't relax. It's not a chore to them, it's a restoration of their identity. You must become neat and tidy with your attention. A stray thought, a random notification, or a half-finished project should feel like a stain on a white carpet. You must be the kind of person who cannot tolerate a cluttered mind. Section 7. The I am someone who. Exercise. To solidify this chapter, you must define your new identity in writing. Do not use weak language. Do not use I want or I hope. Write down 3 identity statements. I am someone who locks in. This means when the work starts, the world ends. I am someone who finishes. This means I do not abandon projects when they become boring or hard. I am someone who commands my environment. This means I do not let a phone or a person dictate where my eyes go. Every morning, before you touch a device, read these statements. Say them out loud. Remind your brain who is in charge. Section 8. The social cost of an unbreakable identity. Warning: when you build an identity that does not break focus, some people won't like it. Your friends will call you and you won't answer. Your co-workers will try to pop in for a chat and you will have your door locked or your headphones on. They might call you intense, obsessive, or unavailable. Let them. Their discomfort is a sign that your identity is working. People who are scattered and distracted are often threatened by people who are focused. Your focus highlights their lack of it. You must be okay with being the outsider. You must be okay with being the person who doesn't know the latest meme, the latest news story, or the latest office gossip. That is the price of greatness. You aren't being rude. You are being sovereign. You are protecting the only thing you truly own, your mind. Section 9. The final truth of identity. You are not a finished product. You are a work in progress. But you are also the architect. If you have spent the last 10 years being a distracted person, you can't expect that identity to vanish in an hour. It is a thick skin that must be shed. It will be uncomfortable. You will have moments where you fail. When you fail, do not say, "See, I'm just a distracted person." Instead, say, "That behavior was inconsistent with who I am. I am someone who locks in. I will now return to my true nature." This is how you build a mindset that cannot be moved. You don't negotiate with the world. You don't negotiate with your impulses. You execute because of who you are. Athletes don't negotiate mid-game. Surgeons don't negotiate mid-incision. And you do not negotiate mid-focus. You have an identity to uphold. The mantra: I am someone who finishes. I am someone who locks in. Chapter 4. Remove, don't resist. Section 1. The fallacy of the strong will. We have been sold a romanticized version of discipline. We imagine the focused person as a stoic warrior sitting in a room full of temptations, phones buzzing, people talking, televisions flickering, and through sheer, gritted teeth willpower, they manage to ignore it all and work. This is a myth. And it is a dangerous one. If you rely on willpower to stay focused, you have already lost the war. Willpower is not a permanent state of being. It is a finite resource. It is like the battery on your smartphone. When you wake up in the morning, it's at 100%. But every time you have to make a choice, to resist a cookie, to ignore a text, to stay focused when you're tired, you drain a percentage of that battery. By the time 4 p.m. rolls around, your willpower battery is at 5%. This is why most people fall apart in the late afternoon. They've spent the whole day resisting the world, and eventually, the brain simply says, "I'm done." They find themselves 3 layers deep into a social media rabbit hole, wondering where the last hour went. The person who cannot be distracted does not have more willpower than you. They are not stronger than you in the way you think. They are simply better architects. They don't resist temptation, they remove it. They understand that the easiest way to win a fight is to not show up to the arena in the first place. Section 2. Environment is everything. You are a product of your environment. You can have the best intentions in the world, but if you are working in a room that is designed to distract you, you will eventually be distracted. Think about it. If you want to lose weight, you don't put a bowl of candy on your desk and tell yourself, "I'll just use my willpower to not eat it." That's exhausting. It creates a constant mental drag. Even if you don't eat the candy, a part of your brain is constantly processing its presence. A part of your energy is being spent on the act of not doing something. The undistractable mindset is about total environmental design. You must treat your workspace like a high-performance cockpit. In a fighter jet, there is nothing in the cockpit that doesn't need to be there for the mission. There are no magazines, no bags of chips, and no random buttons. Everything has a purpose. If your phone is sitting within your field of vision, even if it is face down, it is occupying mental bandwidth. Studies have shown that the mere presence of a smartphone reduces cognitive capacity. Why? Because your brain is subconsciously working to not check it. The secret to elite focus is simple: remove the choice. Section 3. The digital scorched earth policy. We must address the greatest source of distraction in human history: the device in your pocket. Your smartphone is a miracle of engineering designed by some of the smartest psychologists on the planet to keep you hooked. Expecting your willpower to beat a trillion-dollar industry designed to grab your attention is not just optimistic, it's delusional. To become undistractable, you must move from managing your notifications to eliminating them. Rule number 1. Notifications are an insult. A notification is a stranger tapping you on the shoulder and demanding that you stop your life to look at what they want you to see. Why would you allow that? Your phone should be a tool that you pick up when you need it, not a master that calls you when it wants you. Turn off every single notification. Not just the ones for social media. All of them. The only things allowed to make a sound or vibrate on your phone should be actual phone calls from a short list of emergency contacts. Everything else, emails, texts, likes, news, is pull information. You go and get it when you are ready. It does not push itself into your consciousness. Rule number 2. Delete the casino apps. If there is an app on your phone that you find yourself scrolling through mindlessly, delete it. Do not move it to a folder. Do not limit your time. Delete it. If you need to check it, do it on a desktop computer. By moving the casino, the feed, from your pocket to a fixed location, your desk, you create friction. Distraction thrives on convenience. It thrives on being one thumb flick away. When you make it difficult to be distracted, your brain will often decide it's not worth the effort. Section 4. The friction factor. In physics, friction is the resistance that one surface or object encounters when moving over another. In psychology, friction is your best friend. The goal is to increase friction for bad habits and decrease friction for good ones. If you find yourself watching too much TV, don't just try to watch less. Unplug the TV and put the remote in a different room. Now, if you want to watch TV, you have to get up, walk to another room, get the remote, walk back, and plug it in. That 30 seconds of friction is usually enough for your higher brain to kick in and say, "Do I really want to do this?" When it comes to your work, you must apply the same principle. If you want to focus on a specific project, have it already open on your screen before you go to bed. That is low friction. If you want to avoid checking the news, use a website blocker that makes it impossible to access those sites during work hours. You are building a one-way street for your attention. You are making it easy to stay on the path and incredibly annoying to leave it. Section 5. The sanctuary of isolation. You cannot be a focused person in a scattered space. You need a sanctuary, a physical location where only work happens. This is not about having a fancy office. It's about the psychology of place. Your brain associates locations with behaviors. This is why you shouldn't work in bed. Your brain associates the bed with sleep. If you work there, you'll be tired. If you sleep there, you'll be thinking about work. When you enter your sanctuary, a trigger should go off in your mind. This is where I lock in. In this space, there is no phone. In this space, there is no social media. In this space, there are no interruptions. If you work in an office where people pop in to chat, you must create physical barriers. Wear large, visible noise-cancelling headphones, even if no music is playing. They are a do not disturb sign for your head. Put a sign on your door. Move your desk so your back is to the door. You are not being antisocial. You are being pro-mission. If you allow people to interrupt your focus, you are telling them that your time is not valuable. And if you tell them it isn't valuable, they will believe you. They will continue to steal it. You must defend your sanctuary with a remove, don't resist mentality. Don't try to ignore the person who walked in. Make it so they can't walk in. Section 6. The out of sight principle. There is an old saying, out of sight, out of mind. It is one of the most profound truths of human psychology. If you can see your phone, you are thinking about it. If you can see the mess on your desk, you are thinking about it. If you can see the TV, a part of you is imagining it being on. The mindset of someone who cannot be distracted is a mindset of visual minimalist. Before you start a deep work session, perform a visual sweep. Clear your desk of everything except the one thing you are working on. Close every tab on your computer except the one you need. Put your phone in a drawer, or better yet, a different room. The goal is to have zero visual cues for anything other than your mission. When your eyes wander, and they will, because the brain needs a break every few minutes, they should have nothing interesting to land on. They should land on a blank wall or a clean desk, and then, finding nothing to stimulate them, they will naturally return to the work. Section 7. Stop negotiating with triggers. We often think we can handle just a little bit of distraction. We think, I'll just keep the game on in the background, but I won't watch it. Or, I'll just have the group chat open, but I won't participate. This is a negotiation with a terrorist. Distraction is a terrorist that wants to hold your future hostage. You cannot negotiate with it. You cannot tame it. Every trigger you leave in your environment is a leak in your boat. You might be able to bail the water out for a while, but eventually you're going to sink. Remove the trigger. If a certain person always distracts you, stop working near them. If a certain website always draws you in, block it at the router level. If a certain habit, like checking the news, always derails your morning, make it a rule that you can't touch a device until 10 a.m. Do not be strong. Be smart. Section 8. The exercise of removal. Today, I want you to perform a distraction audit. Sit at your workspace and look around. Identify the top 3 things that have stolen your attention in the last week. Is it your phone? Is it a specific website? Is it a person or a noise? Now, don't tell me how you're going to try harder to ignore them. Tell me how you are going to remove them. If it's the phone, it goes in a timed lockbox or a different floor of the house. If it's a website, you install a nuclear blocker that prevents access. If it's a person, you move your desk or have a hard conversation about your focus hours. The moment you remove the trigger, you stop using willpower. You stop the internal struggle. You free up all that energy that was being used for resistance and you funnel it into execution. Section 9. The mantra of the architect. You are the architect of your own success. If the building is falling down, you don't blame the gravity, you blame the design. If you are constantly distracted, don't blame your weak brain, blame your environment. Then, change the design. A master doesn't fight the current, they build a dam. A master doesn't fight the wind, they set the sails. You will no longer fight distraction. You will simply make distraction impossible to reach. When you look at your clean, empty, focused environment, remind yourself of this truth: what you don't see cannot control you. By removing the world, you reclaim yourself. By killing the triggers, you bring the mission to life. The mantra: what you don't see cannot control you. Chapter 5. Train focus like a muscle. Section 1. The myth of the natural focus. We look at the world's most successful people, the elite programmers who code for 10 hours straight, the authors who produce 1,000-page masterpieces, the CEOs who can sit through grueling board meetings without breaking a sweat, and we make a dangerous assumption. We assume they were born that way. We assume they have a gift for focus that we simply don't possess. This is the most convenient lie you can tell yourself. Because if focus is a gift, then your lack of focus isn't your fault. If it's a genetic lottery, you can simply shrug your shoulders and go back to scrolling, blaming your DNA for your lack of results. But the science of the human brain tells a different story. Focus is not a personality trait. Focus is a muscle. And just like any other muscle in the human body, it follows the laws of biology. If you use it, it grows. If you neglect it, it atrophies. If you cannot focus for more than 10 minutes right now, it isn't because you have a broken brain. It's because you are out of shape. You have spent years training your distraction muscle and letting your focus muscle waste away. You have spent your life lifting 5-pound weights, scrolling social media, and now you are frustrated that you can't bench press 300 pounds, performing 3 hours of deep work. If you want the mind of a high performer, you have to stop looking for hacks and start going to the mental gym. Section 2. The physiology of the lock-in. When you focus on a single task, something physical happens in your brain. You are engaging the prefrontal cortex, the most evolved part of the human mind. When you maintain intense focus, your neurons begin to fire in a specific pattern, and a process called myelination begins. Myelin is a fatty tissue that wraps around your neural pathways. Think of it like the insulation on an electrical wire. The more you focus on a specific skill or task, the more myelin is produced. This insulation makes the signal faster and cleaner. This is why, when an expert does something, it looks effortless. Their neural pathways are so heavily insulated that the signal moves at lightning speed. But here is the catch. Myelin only grows when you are operating at the edge of your capability. It only grows during periods of intense, uninterrupted concentration. Every time you get distracted, you stop the myelination process. You leak the signal. If you work for 10 minutes, check your phone, work for 5 more, and then look out the window, you are never building that insulation. You are staying in the shallows. To build a powerful mind, you must stay in the deep long enough for the biological changes to take place. You have to tear the mental muscle so it can grow back stronger. Section 3. Progressive overload for the mind. How do you build a muscle in the gym? You use a principle called progressive overload. You don't walk in on day 1 and try to lift the heaviest weight in the room. You would injure yourself and quit. Instead, you lift a weight that is challenging but manageable. Then, next week, you add 5 pounds. The week after, you add 5 more. You must treat your focus exactly the same way. Most people fail because they try to go from zero to monk. They decide they are going to work for 4 hours straight without a break. Within 20 minutes, their brain is screaming, they feel exhausted, and they give up, deciding that focus just isn't for them. Stop. You need a training plan. The 20-minute sprint. If your focus is weak, start with 20 minutes. Set a timer. For those 20 minutes, you do not move. You do not check your phone. You do not get a glass of water. You do not quickly look something up. You stay on the task. Even if you are just staring at the screen, you do not leave the task. 20 minutes is your starting weight. It might feel heavy. That's fine. Do it every day for a week. Once 20 minutes feels light, you add weight. Move to 30 minutes. Then 40. Then 60. The goal of the Undistractable mindset is to eventually reach a 90-minute deep work block. Research shows that 90 minutes is the gold standard for the human brain to achieve peak output. But you don't start at 90. You earn your way there. Section 4. Embracing the focus burn. In weightlifting, there is a moment called failure. It's when your muscles are burning, your heart is racing, and you feel like you can't possibly do one more rep. This is the most important part of the workout. The first 9 representatives were just the warm-up. The 10th rep, the one that hurts, is the one that causes the growth. Focus has a burn too. We call it the itch. You're 15 minutes into a difficult task. Your brain feels full. You start to feel a restless energy in your legs. You suddenly have a desperate urge to check your email or the news, or even just to get up and organize your desk. This is the moment of growth. Most people feel the itch and they immediately scratch it. They check the phone. They break the tension. By doing this, they are dropping the weight before the rep is finished. They are effectively telling their brain, whenever things get hard, I will give you an escape hatch. If you want to build an unbreakable mind, you must learn to sit with the itch. When that restless feeling comes, recognize it. Say to yourself, my focus muscle is tearing. This is where I get stronger. Do not scratch the itch. Sit with the discomfort. Stay in the chair. Even if you don't type a single word or solve a single problem for the next 5 minutes, simply not breaking focus is a victory. You are training your brain to tolerate the burn of concentration. Section 5. The 5-minute more rule. The best athletes always do one more rep. To train your focus, you should adopt the 5-minute more rule. Whenever you feel like you are absolutely done, whenever you feel like you can't possibly focus for another second, tell yourself, I will stay for 5 more minutes. In those 5 minutes, you are not focused on the quality of the work. You are focused on the endurance of the mind. Those 5 minutes are where you separate yourself from the average person. The average person quits the moment the discomfort starts. The person who cannot be distracted stays long enough to see what's on the other side of the discomfort. Usually, what's on the other side is a second wind. You'll find that if you push through those 5 minutes of agony, the itch disappears, and you enter a state of flow where the work suddenly feels easy. But you can only get to the flow if you are willing to stay through the burn. Section 6. Intensity over duration. In the gym, you can spend 2 hours walking slowly on a treadmill and scrolling on your phone, or you can spend 20 minutes doing high-intensity sprints. The 20-minute sprints will give you 10 times the results. The same is true for focus. Many people play-act work. They sit at their desk for 8 hours, but their intensity is low. They are sort of working, sort of checking messages, sort of thinking about lunch. This is junk volume. It doesn't build the muscle, it just makes you tired. The undistractable mindset values intensity over duration. I would rather you work for 30 minutes with 100% intensity, where your brain is working so hard you can feel the heat, than work for 4 hours at 20% intensity. When you are in a focus session, you must redline your brain. You are not looking at the work. You are attacking it. You are trying to squeeze every drop of cognitive power out of your neurons. When the session is over, you should feel genuinely tired. If you don't feel a little bit of mental fatigue, you weren't training, you were just hanging out at the mental gym. Section 7. The recovery phase. A muscle doesn't grow in the gym, it grows while you sleep. If you work out 7 days a week, twice a day, without rest, your muscles will break down and you will get weaker. Your focus muscle needs recovery too. But you must understand what recovery actually means. Recovery is not scrolling through social media. Scrolling is not rest, it is low-grade stimulation. It keeps your brain in a state of input mode. It doesn't allow your neural pathways to settle and integrate what you've learned. True mental recovery looks like taking a walk without headphones, staring out a window, closing your eyes and breathing for 5 minutes, doing a mundane task like washing dishes or stretching. If you want to be able to lock in for your next training session, you must give your brain periods of zero input. You must allow the mental dust to settle. High performers are just as disciplined about their rest as they are about their work. They don't crash into distraction. They strategically recover in silence. Section 8. The 6-month transformation. If you go to the gym for 1 day, you won't see a difference in the mirror. If you go for a week, you might feel a little better, but your body looks the same. But if you go for 6 months, 4 days a week, without fail, you become a different human being. You must view your focus on this timeline. Do not get discouraged because you got distracted today. Do not get upset because you only focused for 15 minutes. The goal is consistency. If you show up every day and put your brain under the weight of concentration, you are fundamentally rewiring your biology. 6 months from now, your friends will ask you how you get so much done. They will call you talented or lucky. They won't see the thousands of representatives you did in the silence. They won't see the times you sat with the itch and refused to scratch it. You are building a mind that is dense, powerful, and capable of sustained effort. You are building the capacity to outthink, outwork, and outlast anyone who hasn't been in the gym. Section 9. The mantra of the mental athlete. When you sit down to work today, and that moment of discomfort hits, when the brain wants to flee, when the phone feels like a magnet pulling at your soul, I want you to smile. Recognize that moment for what it is. It is the heavy rep. It is the moment the muscle grows. Don't run from the pain. Lean into it. The mantra: stay longer than your discomfort. If you can stay 5 minutes longer than the version of you that wanted to quit, you have won. If you can do that every day, you will become a person who cannot be distracted. You will become a person who possesses the ultimate weapon in the modern world: the ability to pay attention. Training starts now. Pick up the weight. Stay in the chair. Don't move. Chapter 6. Stop multitasking. IT is mental weakness. Section 1. The Great Modern Lie. We live in a world that celebrates the multitasker. Look at any job description, and you will see it listed as a requirement: must be able to multitask in a fast-paced environment. We wear our busyness like a badge of honor. We feel productive when we have 12 tabs open on our browser, a phone in our hand, a podcast in our ears, and a half-written email on the screen. We think we are being efficient. We think we are hacking time. It is time to stop lying to yourself. Multitasking is not a skill. It is not a superpower. It is a fundamental misunderstanding of how the human brain functions. Scientifically speaking, humans do not multitask. We are not designed to process multiple streams of cognitive-heavy information simultaneously. What we are actually doing is context switching. We are flicking our attention back and forth between tasks at lightning speed. And every single time you flick that switch, you pay a tax. You pay a tax in time, you pay a tax in quality, and you pay a tax in mental energy. The mindset of someone who cannot be distracted views multitasking for what it truly is: mental weakness. It is the inability to discipline your mind to stay on one path. It is a confession that you are not in control of your own focus. Section 2. The Science of Attention Residue. Why is multitasking so damaging? The answer lies in a concept discovered by business professor Sophie Leroy called attention residue. When you switch from task A to task B, your attention does not follow you immediately. A residue of your thoughts remains stuck on the previous task. If you were working on a complex spreadsheet and you suddenly stop to check an urgent Slack message, your brain is still partially processing the numbers from the spreadsheet while you are trying to read the message. You are now operating task B with a fragmented brain. It takes the average person nearly 20 minutes to fully regain deep concentration after a single interruption. Think about that. If you check your phone every 15 minutes, you are never operating at 100% cognitive capacity. You are living your entire life in a state of mental fog, wondering why you feel burnt out even though you haven't produced anything of greatness. Imagine your brain is a high-performance computer. Every time you open a tab, an email, a text, a social media notification, you are using up RAM. If you have 50 tabs open, the computer starts to lag. The fans start spinning. The system gets hot. Eventually, it crashes. Most people are living their lives with 50 tabs open. They are lagging through their careers and their relationships, doing everything at 50% power. Section 3. The Productivity Theatre. Why do we do it? If multitasking is so inefficient, why is it our default mode? Because multitasking is productivity theatre. It makes you feel busy. And in our society, feeling busy is often confused with being effective. When you are juggling 5 things at once, your brain is flooded with dopamine. You feel a sense of urgency. You feel important. You feel like you're at the center of a whirlwind of activity. But busy is a lazy man's version of productive. A hamster on a wheel is incredibly busy. It's running at full speed. It's breathing hard. Its heart is racing. But it isn't going anywhere. The person who cannot be distracted has no interest in theatre. They are interested in results. They would rather spend 4 hours in total silence, working on one single, difficult task, than spend 8 hours multitasking and checking boxes on a meaningless to-do list. True productivity is often quiet. It is often boring. It doesn't look like a whirlwind. It looks like a person sitting still, staring at a problem until it breaks. Section 4. The quality trade-off. There is a fundamental law of the universe. Energy is finite. If you have 100 units of energy and you apply all 100 units to a single point, you will break through almost any obstacle. If you take those 100 units and spread them across 10 different points, you won't break through anything. You will just leave 10 shallow scratches. When you multitask, you are choosing to be mediocre at everything. You are choosing to write a decent email while having a decent conversation, while thinking decent thoughts. The world does not reward decent. The world rewards exceptional. An exceptional piece of code cannot be written while multitasking. An exceptional business strategy cannot be built while multitasking. An exceptional relationship cannot be nurtured while you are glancing at your phone. The truth is simple. You can do many things badly, or one thing exceptionally. Which one are you? Are you a Swiss Army knife, a tool that has a dozen different blades, but none of them are actually sharp enough to cut through wood? Or are you a scalpel, a tool that does only one thing, but does it with surgical, lethal precision? The person who cannot be distracted is a scalpel. Section 5. Multitasking as an escape from discomfort. If we look deeper, we find that multitasking is often a form of emotional avoidance. Deep work, staying with one thing for a long time, is psychologically uncomfortable. It forces you to confront your own limitations. When you sit with a hard problem for 2 hours, you will eventually hit a wall. You will feel stupid. You will feel frustrated. You will feel bored. In that moment of discomfort, multitasking offers an easy out. By quickly checking your email or hopping on a call, you are giving yourself an excuse to flee the pain of the difficult task. You convince yourself that you are still being productive because you're answering emails, but in reality, you are just a coward running away from the hard work. Multitasking is the ultimate procrastination tool. It allows you to stay busy with small things so you don't have to face the big things. To stop multitasking, you must be willing to sit with the discomfort. You must be willing to feel the frustration of a single task and refuse to look away. You must realize that the itch to switch tasks is just your ego trying to protect you from the possibility of failure. Section 6. The monotasking protocol. How do we break the habit? How do we transition from a scattered, multitasking mess to a person of singular focus? We implement the monotasking protocol. Step 1. The single tab rule. If you are working on a computer, you are allowed only one window and one tab open. If you are writing, only the word processor is open. If you are researching, only the specific article is open. If you need to switch, you must close the previous tab entirely. This creates mental friction and forces you to acknowledge the switch. Step 2. The phone burial. You cannot monotask if your phone is within reach. It is a gateway to a billion different contexts. During your work blocks, your phone is not just on silent, it is physically removed from your presence. Step 3. The one in, one out task list. Instead of a massive to-do list where you jump from item to item, pick one task. Write it on a physical piece of paper. That is the only task that exists. Until that task is either finished or you have reached a predetermined stopping point, you do not even look at the rest of the list. Step 4. Close the loops. A major reason we multitask is open loops, those little voices in our head saying, "Don't forget to call John," or "Remember to pay that bill." When these thoughts pop up, do not switch tasks. Simply write the thought down on a capture list and return immediately to your one task. You have closed the loop by recording it, freeing your brain to return to the mission. Section 7. the deep state advantage. When you commit to monotasking, you eventually enter a state that the multitaskers will never know, the deep state. This is where time disappears. This is where your skill level peaks. This is where you produce work that looks like magic to everyone else. In the deep state, your brain isn't switching, it is descending. You are going deeper and deeper into the logic of the problem. Multitaskers live on the surface of the ocean. They see the waves, the wind, and the spray. It's chaotic and loud. Monotaskers are like submarines. They dive beneath the surface where it is perfectly still and perfectly quiet. Down there, they can see the true structure of the ocean floor. The multitasker will spend 10 years on the surface and never understand the depth. The monotasker will dive once and return with a treasure the surface dweller didn't even know existed. Section 8. Monotasking in relationships. This mindset is not just for your career. It is for your life. The greatest gift you can give another human being is your undivided attention. Yet, we are a generation of distracted lovers. We sit at dinner with our partners and check our phones. We play with our children while thinking about work. This is multitasking at its most cruel. You are telling the people you love that they are only worth a fraction of your mind. The person who cannot be distracted applies the same locked-in identity to their personal life. When they are with their spouse, they are only with their spouse. The phone is gone. The work thoughts are suppressed. They are monotasking the relationship. The result? Deeper connections, less conflict, and a life that actually feels lived rather than just processed. Section 9. The truth of the one thing. You were not put on this earth to be a handler of 1,000 tiny details. You were put here to do something of significance. And significance requires the total mobilization of your resources. Every time you multitask, you are diluting your power. You are pouring your gallon of water into the sand instead of into the bucket. From this moment on, you must view multitasking as a sign of a weak, undisciplined mind. When you feel the urge to just check one thing while you are in the middle of a task, stop. Recognize that it is the weak version of you trying to take the wheel. Push that version of you aside. Recenter. Look at the one thing in front of you. The truth, you can do many things badly, or one thing exceptionally. Choose the one thing. Finish it. Then, and only then, move to the next. This is the only way to build a life that matters. This is the mindset of the exceptional. The mantra: one task, one mind, one outcome. Chapter 7. Create non-negotiable rules. Section 1. The trap of human feeling. If you wait until you feel like working, you are leaving your future in the hands of a fickle, unreliable child. Human emotions are like the weather. They change without warning. They are influenced by things as insignificant as a bad night's sleep or a cloudy day, and they have absolutely no interest in your long-term success. Your feelings want comfort. They want safety. They want dopamine. They do not want the grueling, silent effort of deep concentration. The greatest mistake people make when trying to build a focused life is relying on motivation. Motivation is a feeling. It's a high. It's great when it's there, but it's never there when things get difficult. The person who cannot be distracted does not rely on how they feel. They rely on rules. Rules are the architecture of greatness. A rule is a predetermined decision that you made when you were in a rational, high-functioning state, so that you don't have to make a decision when you are in a tired, low-functioning state. If you have to decide to work every morning, you will eventually decide not to. But if it is a non-negotiable rule that you work from 8 a.m. to 11 a.m. without a phone, there is no decision to be made. The work simply happens because the rule exists. Section 2. The biology of decision fatigue. Every decision you make, from what to wear, to what to eat, to whether or not you should check your email, consumes a small amount of mental energy. This is a scientific reality known as decision fatigue. By the time you sit down to do your most important work, if you have already spent your morning making 50 small decisions, your brain is already tired. When your brain is tired, it naturally seeks the path of least resistance. It seeks distraction. This is why the world's most effective people, the icons of industry and performance, often lead remarkably boring, repetitive lives. They wear the same clothes. They eat the same breakfast. They follow the same routine every single day. They aren't doing this because they lack imagination. They are doing it to preserve their decision-making power for the things that actually matter. By creating non-negotiable rules for your life, you are automating the low-value parts of your existence. You are clearing the mental clutter. You are making focus the default setting of your day rather than an uphill battle. Section 3. The internal negotiator. Inside your head, there is a negotiator. When the alarm goes off and the rule says get up, the negotiator says, 5 more minutes won't hurt. We went to bed late. We deserve a break. When the rule says no phone during work, the negotiator says, we should just check the news for a second. There might be an emergency. We'll be quick. The negotiator is the part of your brain that is addicted to comfort and distraction. And here is the secret. You cannot win a debate with the negotiator. If you enter into a conversation with your own excuses, you have already lost. The negotiator has 1,000,000 years of evolutionary biology on its side. It knows all your weaknesses. It knows exactly which lies you are most likely to believe. The only way to win is to refuse to negotiate. A non-negotiable rule is exactly what it sounds like. It is not up for discussion. It is a law. When you have a rule, you don't listen to the negotiator. You don't weigh the pros and cons. You don't consider how you feel. You simply point to the rule and execute. You must become a dictator over your own impulses. Section 4. The 3 pillars of a focused rule. For a rule to be effective in protecting your focus, it must possess 3 qualities. It must be clear, it must be consistent, and it must be inflexible. 1. Clarity. Vague rules like I will work harder or I will check my phone less are useless. They leave room for the negotiator to wiggle through. A clear rule is, I do not touch my phone before 10 a.m. Or, I spend the first 90 minutes of my day on my number 1 priority. There is no ambiguity. You either followed the rule or you broke it. 2. Consistency. A rule is not a rule if you only follow it on Tuesdays. The power of a rule comes from its repetition. When you do the same thing at the same time every day, your brain begins to prime itself for focus before you even start. It becomes a neural groove. Eventually, your brain stops fighting the work and starts expecting it. 3. Inflexibility. This is the hardest part. You must have a no-exception policy. The moment you make an exception for a special occasion or a bad day, the rule is dead. You have taught your negotiator that your laws can be broken if the excuse is good enough. You must protect the integrity of your rules with your life. Section 5. The essential rules for an undistractable life. To build the mindset of someone who cannot be moved, you must implement the following 4 non-negotiable rules immediately. Rule number 1. The phone boundary. Your phone is the single greatest threat to your future. You must have a strict, geographical, and chronological rule for it. Example rule: the phone stays in a different room until my first deep work block is finished. Or, the phone is turned off at 9 p.m. and not turned on until 9 a.m. No quick checks. No, I'll just use it for the calculator. The phone is a forbidden object during your hours of power. Rule number 2. The deep work clock. You must have a fixed time where the world ceases to exist. This is your sacred hour. During this time, you do not answer doors, you do not answer emails, and you do not engage in quick chats. Example rule: from 8 a.m. to 10 a.m., I am in the bunker. No exceptions. This rule creates a social boundary. People will eventually learn that during those hours, you are unavailable. You are training the world to respect your focus. Rule number 3. The one thing start. You do not open your email, Slack, or any communication tool until you have completed at least 30 minutes of creative or strategic work. Example rule: creation before consumption. If you start your day by reading other people's messages, you are handing the steering wheel of your life to other people. You are putting yourself in reactive mode. This rule ensures you start in proactive mode. Rule number 4. The closing ritual. Focus is not just about how you start, it's about how you end. You need a rule for shutting down the open loops in your brain so they don't distract you during your rest. Example rule: At 5 p.m., I write down the top 3 tasks for tomorrow, clear my desk, and say the words "shut down complete." This physical and verbal ritual tells your brain that it is safe to stop thinking about work. Section 6. No debate. No delay. No exception. This is the mantra of the disciplined mind. No debate. When the time comes to work, you do not discuss it with yourself. You do not ask, "Do I feel like doing this?" You do not look at the clock and think, "Maybe I'll start at 8:15 instead." You are a soldier following an order from a superior officer. That officer is the higher you who wrote the rules. No delay. Procrastination lives in the gap between the thought and the action. If you have a rule to work at 8 o'clock, you must be in the chair with the screen on at 8 hours. Speed is a form of discipline. The faster you move into the task, the less time the negotiator has to mount an argument. No exception. This is where character is built. Anyone can follow a rule when things are going well. The person who cannot be distracted follows the rule when they have a headache, when they didn't sleep, and when they are bored out of their mind. Especially then. Following the rule when it's hard is how you armor your mind. Section 7. The freedom of the rule. To the outside world, a life of strict rules looks like a prison. They see the fixed hours, the lack of phone access, and the repetitive routine, and they say, "Where is the spontaneity? Where is the fun?" You're a slave to your schedule. They are wrong. The person with no rules is the true slave. They are a slave to their impulses. They are a slave to the notification. They are a slave to their mood and the whims of other people. They spend their lives reacting to the world, never making any real progress, always feeling scattered and anxious. The person with rules is free. Because they have automated their focus, they have the freedom to produce at an elite level. Because they have protected their time, they have the freedom to truly relax when the work is done. Because they have eliminated decision fatigue, they have the mental clarity to enjoy their lives. Rules are not the bars of a cage, they are the tracks for a high-speed train. Without the tracks, the train can go anywhere, but it will go nowhere fast and it will likely crash in the dirt. With the tracks, the train is limited to one direction, but it can travel at 200 miles per hour with absolute certainty. Section 8. Your personal constitution. I want you to view your rules as your personal constitution. A country's constitution is not a suggestion. It is the supreme law of the land. It defines what is allowed and what is forbidden. It survives through changes in leadership and changes in the weather. You must write your own constitution. Do not make it 20 items long. Start with 3. 3 non-negotiable laws that will govern your attention. What is your rule for your phone? What is your rule for your start time? What is your rule for your environment? Write them down. Sign your name at the bottom. This is your contract with your future self. Section 9. The social cost of rules. Be prepared. Your rules will annoy people. Your friends will be annoyed that you don't text back immediately. Your family might be annoyed that you are unavailable for 2 hours in the morning. Your co-workers will be annoyed that you don't join the urgent but meaningless meetings. Let them be annoyed. You are not being selfish. You are being intentional. Most people spend their lives in a distraction pact. They distract each other to avoid the pain of doing real work. When you stop participating in that pact, it makes them uncomfortable. You must value your rules more than you value their temporary approval. Over time, the results of your focus will speak for themselves. The very people who were annoyed by your strictness will eventually ask you how you became so successful. And you will tell them, "I stopped negotiating. I started following the rules." Section 10. The mantra of the law. When the negotiator starts to whisper, and he will whisper every single day, you must have a response ready. You don't argue. You don't explain. You don't justify. You simply repeat the mantra. No debate. No delay. No exception. The rule is the rule. The law is the law. The work is the work. Your feelings don't matter. Your excuses don't matter. The only thing that matters is that you stayed on the tracks. You have built a structure that makes focus inevitable. You have moved from a person of intentions to a person of laws. You are becoming someone who cannot be moved. The mantra, no debate, no delay, no exception. Chapter 8. Embrace boredom as a weapon. Section 1. The modern fear of nothing. Walk into any elevator in any city in the world. Look at the people waiting for a train. Look at the people standing in line for a coffee. What do you see? You see a sea of bent necks. You see eyes glued to glowing rectangles. You see a species that has become fundamentally terrified of being alone with its own thoughts for even 10 seconds. We have reached a point in human history where boredom is treated like a medical emergency. The moment a lull occurs in our environment, the moment the stimulation drops below a certain threshold, we experience a spike of cortisol, a flash of anxiety. We reach for our phones like a drowning man reaches for a life preserver. But here is the secret that the world's most successful people know, and the secret that the tech companies don't want you to find out. Boredom is not the enemy. Boredom is the gatekeeper of greatness. If you cannot tolerate boredom, you cannot achieve anything of significance. Every great work of art, every breakthrough in science, every billion-dollar company, and every elite level of physical fitness was built on a foundation of profound, excruciating boredom. To become someone who cannot be distracted, you must stop running from boredom. You must learn to embrace it, weaponize it, and use it as a tool to outwork and outthink the rest of the world. Section 2. Boredom is the filter. The world is a competitive place. Whatever goal you have, there are thousands of other people who want the same thing. Most of them are just as smart as you. Many of them have the same resources as you. So, how do you win? You win by passing through the filters that stop everyone else. The greatest filter in the modern world is the boredom threshold. The first 20% of any project is exciting. It's the honeymoon phase. You have a new idea, the dopamine is flowing, and everything feels fresh. But then, you hit the middle. The middle is where the grind lives. The middle is where the task becomes repetitive. The middle is where you have to do the same boring thing for the 1000th time to get it right. This is where 99% of the population fails. The moment the newness wears off and boredom sets in, they look for a distraction. They start a new project, they check social media, or they tell themselves they need a break. The person who cannot be distracted looks at that same boredom and sees an opportunity. They realize that every minute they stay in that boring state, another 1,000 competitors are dropping out. Boredom is the wall that keeps the mediocre out of the winner's circle. If you can sit in the boredom longer than your competition, you win by default. Section 3. The lobby of the mansion of genius. There is a psychological reason why we hate being bored. When we are bored, our brains move into what is called the default mode network. In this state, our minds begin to wander. They begin to dig into deep-seated anxieties, unsolved problems, and uncomfortable truths. Most people use distraction to numb this process. They don't want to think about their problems, so they drown them out with noise. But the default mode network is also where creativity lives. Think of boredom as the lobby of a magnificent mansion, the mansion of genius. To get to the library where the great ideas are, you have to sit in the lobby first. There is no shortcut. You have to endure the stillness. You have to wait. If you reach for your phone the moment you feel bored, you are walking out of the lobby before the door to the mansion ever opens. You are effectively making yourself stupid. You are cutting off the deepest, most creative parts of your brain because you are too cowardly to sit in the quiet. Great thinkers, from Isaac Newton to Bill Gates, have always utilized think weeks or long walks in the woods. They aren't doing anything. They are being bored. They are allowing the mental dust to settle so that the big ideas can finally rise to the surface. Section 4. The competitive advantage of the still mind. In a world of constant noise, the person who can sit in stillness has an unfair advantage. Imagine a negotiation. Two people are sitting across from each other. One person is uncomfortable with silence. They feel the need to fill every gap with words. They fidget. They check their watch. The other person is perfectly comfortable in the silence. They can sit for 2 minutes without saying a word, looking the other person in the eye, perfectly calm. Who has the power? The person who can sit still. Imagine a deep work session. Two programmers are trying to solve a complex bug. One programmer gets frustrated after 10 minutes of no progress. He checks his phone for a mental break. The other programmer feels the same frustration, the same boredom, the same itch, but he stays. He stares at the screen. He feels the discomfort, and he refuses to move. Who solves the bug? The person who can sit still. The ability to sit in stillness is the ability to maintain focus when there is no external reward. Most people are reward-driven. If they aren't getting a hit of dopamine every few seconds, they stop. But the biggest rewards in life have a long lead time. They require months or years of boring effort before the payoff comes. If you can sit still, you can outwork anyone because you are no longer a slave to the dopamine loop. Section 5. The itch of the void. When you decide to be bored, when you intentionally put away the phone and the music, you will feel a physical sensation. It feels like a restless itch inside your chest. It feels like you have too much energy and nowhere to put it. This is not a sign that something is wrong. This is the sign that your brain is readjusting to reality. For years, you have overstimulated your mind. You have kept it at a 10/10 level of noise. Now that you have dropped it to a 2/10, your brain is panicking. It is looking for the missing stimulation. You must learn to observe this itch without scratching it. When you are waiting in line and you feel the urge to pull out your phone, notice the feeling. Say to yourself, there it is. That is the feeling of my brain wanting to escape. I will stay here. I will stay in the void. By staying in the void, you are training your nervous system. You are teaching it that silence is safe. You are teaching it that you do not need a constant stream of external validation to exist. This is the foundation of true confidence and true focus. Section 6. Practical exercises in weaponized boredom. You don't become comfortable with boredom by reading about it. You become comfortable by practicing it. You must bore yourself on purpose to build your tolerance. Exercise 1. The phone-free transition. Whenever you move from one location to another, walking from your car to your office, walking from your desk to the break room, walking from your house to the mailbox, you are forbidden from touching your phone. Use that time to simply walk. Look at the trees. Look at the sidewalk. Feel the air. Embrace the boring transition. Exercise 2. The silent meal. Eat one meal a day in total silence. No TV, no book, no podcast, no phone. Just you and the food. Notice the texture of the food. Notice the thoughts that pop into your head. Notice how desperate your brain is to find something to do. Stay with it. Exercise 3. The 10-minute wall sit, mental. Set a timer for 10 minutes. Sit in a chair with your hands in your lap. Do not meditate. Do not try to clear your mind. Just sit there. You are not allowed to get up, and you are not allowed to distract yourself. If your mind wants to race, let it race. If you feel bored, feel bored. The goal of these exercises is to prove to your subconscious that nothing bad happens when you are bored. In fact, you will find that after 10 minutes of doing nothing, your mind feels clearer, your focus is sharper, and your anxiety levels are lower. Section 7. Boredom as a creative stimulant. There is an old saying, necessity is the mother of invention. In the modern world, we can update this. Boredom is the mother of invention. When you are constantly stimulated, you have no reason to invent anything. You are a consumer. You are just absorbing what others have created. But when you are bored, when the external world is silent, your brain is forced to become a creator. It has to generate its own entertainment. It has to solve its own problems. This is why your best ideas often come in the shower or while you are driving in silence. It's because those are the only times you have allowed your brain to be bored enough to actually think. If you want to be a person of high output, you must create boredom pockets in your day. You must give your brain the empty space it needs to connect dots and find solutions. If you fill every second of your life with input, you will never have any original output. Section 8. The price of admission. Greatness is expensive. The currency you use to pay for it is discomfort. Most people think the price of success is hard work. But hard work is easy when you're motivated. The real price of success is the boredom of the mundane. It is the boredom of practicing the same scale on the piano for the 10,000th time. It is the boredom of writing the 5th draft of a chapter. It is the boredom of checking the same line of code for the 100th time. If you want the glory, you must pay with boredom. The person who cannot be distracted understands this transaction. They don't look for shortcuts to make the work fun or engaging. They accept that some work is just boring, and they do it anyway. They sit in the stillness until the job is done. They know that on the other side of that boredom is a level of mastery that the fun seekers will never even glimpse. Section 9. The silence of the winner's circle. Imagine the finish line of a marathon. The winner crosses the line. They are exhausted. They are in pain. But there is a profound silence in their mind. They have pushed through the boredom of the training, the boredom of the miles, and the boredom of the struggle. Contrast that with the person who quit at mile 10 because they were bored and it wasn't fun anymore. That person is still looking for the next distraction, still feeling restless, still feeling unfulfilled. Winning is quiet. Mastery is still. The person who cannot be distracted has learned to love the quiet. They have learned that the noise of the world is just a distraction from the truth of their own potential. They have made boredom their weapon. Section 10. The mantra of stillness. When you feel the world pressing in on you, when you feel the itch to check your phone, to flee the stillness, to escape the moment, take a deep breath. Don't run. Stay. Look at the empty space in front of you and realize that this is where your power comes from. This is where you grow. This is where you become better than you were yesterday. The average person is running a race they can never win, chasing a dopamine hit that will never satisfy them. You are standing still. And because you can stand still, you can see the path clearly. The mantra, if you can sit still, you can outwork anyone. Repeat it. Live it. Embrace the boredom. It is the only way to the top. The mantra, if you can sit still, you can outwork anyone. Chapter 9. Detach from instant rewards. Section 1. The dopamine dictatorship. We live in a world that has been engineered to be a dopamine slot machine. Every time you refresh your feed, you are pulling the lever. Every time you see a like, a match, or a view count, you get a tiny, crystalline hit of dopamine. This chemical was designed by evolution to reward us for finding food, securing a mate, or solving a survival problem. It was meant to be the fuel for our progress. But the modern world has hacked this system. Companies spend billions of dollars to ensure that you get that reward for doing absolutely nothing. You get the reward for scrolling. You get the reward for watching someone else live their life. You get the reward for clicking a button. This is the birth of the instant reward mindset. When your brain gets used to receiving pleasure for zero effort, it begins to despise effort. Why would your brain want to sit down and write a difficult business proposal for 3 hours, a task that offers no reward until it's finished months from now, when it can get a hit of pleasure right now by looking at a meme? To become someone who cannot be distracted, you must break the dopamine dictatorship. You must learn to detach yourself from the quick fix and reorient your entire nervous system toward the long-term horizon. Section 2. Cheap versus expensive dopamine. Not all rewards are created equal. In the undistractable mindset, we categorize pleasure into 2 types: cheap dopamine and expensive dopamine. Cheap dopamine is easy to get. It requires no skill, no discipline, and no struggle. It is the dopamine of social media, junk food, pornography, and video games. It comes fast, it peaks quickly, and then it leaves you feeling empty, restless, and more distracted than before. Cheap dopamine is like mental candy. It tastes good for a second, but it rots your ability to focus. Expensive dopamine is different. It is earned. It is the satisfaction you feel after a grueling workout. It is the peace you feel after finishing a difficult project. It is the pride of seeing a business grow over years of effort. This dopamine is expensive because the price is discomfort, time, and sacrifice. The person who cannot be distracted has a very simple rule. They refuse to settle for cheap dopamine. They understand that if they fill their day with cheap rewards, they will never have the hunger required to pursue the expensive ones. They treat their attention like capital. They don't waste it on penny ante distractions. They invest it in high-yield goals. Section 3. The success curve and the dip. Most people quit their goals because they are addicted to the linear reward model. They think that if they put in 1 unit of work, They should get 1 unit of reward immediately. But success doesn't work that way. Success follows the exponential curve. In the beginning, you put in a massive amount of work for almost zero reward. You study for weeks and still don't understand the concept. You go to the gym for a month and still look the same. You start a business and make zero profit for a year. This is what Seth Godin calls the dip. This is the period where the work is high and the reward is low. This is where the instant reward junkies fall away. Their brains, accustomed to the immediate feedback of the smartphone, conclude that this isn't working and they go back to the distractions. The person who cannot be distracted expects the dip. They don't look at the daily results, they look at the long-term trajectory. They have detached their effort from the instant outcome. They find their satisfaction in the process itself, knowing that the reward is being stored up in the future. Section 4. The architecture of delayed gratification. You may have heard of the marshmallow test, the famous psychological study where children were given a choice, 1 marshmallow now, or 2 marshmallows if they could wait 15 minutes. The children who could wait, who could delay their gratification, went on to have higher SAT scores, lower levels of substance abuse, and greater professional success. Why? Because they possessed the one trait that distraction cannot overcome: temporal sovereignty. They were the masters of their own time. They could see a future version of themselves that was happier with 2 marshmallows, and they could prioritize that future self over their present self. Distraction is the ultimate act of selfishness toward your future self. Every time you choose the instant reward of a distraction, you are stealing from the person you are going to be in 5 years. You are trading their success for your 5 minutes of amusement. The undistractable mindset is built on a contract with the future. You must decide that your future self deserves more than your present self's whims. You must be willing to suffer a little bit today so that you can thrive tomorrow. Section 5. The dopamine fast as a training tool. If you find yourself constantly reaching for instant rewards, your dopamine receptors are likely fried. You have high tolerance. You need more and more noise just to feel normal. To detach, you must perform a dopamine fast. This is a period, usually 24 hours, where you eliminate all sources of cheap dopamine. No phone, no internet, no music, no tasty food, no television. What happens during a dopamine fast? At first, you will feel a sense of intense boredom and irritability. Your brain will beg for a fix. But after several hours, something shifts. The noise in your head starts to quiet down. You start to notice things you haven't noticed in years. A simple walk feels interesting. A plain bowl of rice tastes incredible. Reading a book feels deeply engaging. You are resensitizing your brain. By removing the cheap rewards, you make the natural rewards more powerful. Once you complete a fast, you will find it 10 times easier to focus on your work. Why? Because your brain is no longer comparing the work to the hit of Instagram. The work is now the most interesting thing in your environment. Section 6. Stop looking at the scoreboard. A major source of distraction is result checking. The writer who checks their view count every 10 minutes. The trader who checks the price of a stock every 30 seconds. The dater who steps on the scale 3 times a day. This is a form of instant reward seeking. You are looking for a sign that your work is paying off. But result checking is a distraction that breaks your flow and creates anxiety. The person who cannot be distracted has a rule: don't look at the scoreboard until the game is over. Focus on the leads, not the lags. A lagging indicator is the result, the money, the weight loss, the fame. It happens after the work is done. A leading indicator is the action, the hours coded, the representatives lifted, the words written. You have 100% control over the leading indicators. You have 0% control over the lagging indicators. Therefore, you must detach your reward from the lag and attach it to the lead. Your win for the day isn't "I made a sale." Your win for the day is "I made 50 calls without being distracted." When you reward yourself for the effort rather than the outcome, you become unstoppable. Section 7. Sandcastles versus skyscrapers. Think about a child on a beach building a sandcastle. It takes 20 minutes. It looks good immediately. And then, the first wave comes and it is gone forever. This is cheap success. It is the instant reward of a viral post or a quick win. Now think about the construction of a skyscraper. For the first 6 months, you see nothing but a giant hole in the ground. It's ugly. It's loud. It's dangerous. There is no beauty to show for the work. But they are building the foundation. They are drilling into the bedrock. After the foundation is set, the building begins to rise. And once it is finished, it stands for 100 years. No wave can knock it down. You must decide what you are building. If you want the instant reward, you will build sandcastles your whole life. You will be famous for a week or busy for a month, and then you will have nothing to show for it. If you want to build a skyscraper, a career of significance, a body of work that lasts, a legacy of wealth, you must be okay with the hole in the ground phase. You must be okay with the periods where there is no reward, only work. Section 8. The mantra of the builder. The instant reward mindset says, I want it easy, and I want it now. The undistractable mindset says, I don't chase easy, I build lasting. When you feel the temptation to take a shortcut, or to check your results, or to abandon a hard task for a quick distraction, repeat this phrase. I don't chase easy, I build lasting. Easy is for the masses. Easy is why they are distracted. Easy is why they are average. You are not interested in easy. You are interested in the kind of success that has a moat around it. The kind of success that other people can't take from you because they aren't willing to do the boring, long-term work required to get it. Section 9. The practice of the delay. To build this mindset, you must practice the art of the delay in your everyday life. When you feel the urge to buy something online, make yourself wait 48 hours. When you want to check your phone, make yourself finish the page you are reading first. When you want to eat a snack, make yourself do 20 push-ups first. You are training your brain to understand that the reward comes after the effort. You are breaking the instant loop. Every time you successfully delay a reward, you are strengthening the neural pathways of your prefrontal cortex. You are becoming heavier in your focus. The world is trying to make you light. It wants you to flit from one shiny object to the next like a moth. By detaching from instant rewards, you are becoming heavy. You are sinking your roots into the ground. Section 10. The final reward. The great irony of delayed gratification is that the expensive dopamine is actually much more pleasurable than the cheap kind. The hit you get from a social media notification is shallow. It lasts for seconds and leaves a bitter aftertaste of anxiety. But the hit you get from finishing a 90-day goal, or mastering a difficult skill, or knowing that you have been disciplined for a month straight, that reward is deep. It changes your internal baseline. It gives you a sense of quiet confidence that no distraction can provide. The final reward of focus is not the thing you get at the end. It is the person you become in the process. You become someone who can trust themselves. You become someone who isn't a slave to their impulses. You become a person of power. Stop chasing the crumbs. Build the feast. The mantra, I don't chase easy, I build lasting. Chapter 10. Execute without emotion. Section 1. The tyranny of how I feel. We have reached the final and most critical pillar of the undistractable mind. We have discussed environment, identity, rules, and boredom. But all of those tools will fail you if you do not master this one truth. Your feelings do not matter. Most people are slaves to their internal weather. They wake up and check their emotional temperature before they decide what kind of day they are going to have. They say things like, I'm just not feeling it today, or I'm not in the right headspace to focus, or I'll wait until I'm feeling inspired. This is the hallmark of the amateur. An amateur works when they feel like it. A professional works regardless of how they feel. If you only focus when you are motivated, you are essentially saying that your goals are at the mercy of your mood. You are admitting that a bad night's sleep, a rude comment from a stranger, or a slight feeling of fatigue is enough to derail your entire future. To become someone who cannot be distracted, you must learn to execute without emotion. You must build a firewall between your internal state and your external actions. Your hands must move even when your heart isn't in it. Section 2. The professional is a machine. Think about a surgeon. When they walk into the operating room to perform a life-saving procedure, do they stop and think, "I'm just not feeling very surgical today"? Do they wait for inspiration to strike before they make the first incision? Think about a commercial airline pilot. When it is time to land a plane with 300 people on board in the middle of a storm, does the pilot say, "I'm feeling a little bit burnt out, I think I'll just check my phone for a while"? Of course not. They follow the protocol. In high-stakes professions, emotion is seen as a liability, not an asset. Emotion leads to errors. Emotion leads to distraction. The surgeon and the pilot operate mechanically. They have a checklist. They have a series of movements. They execute the steps regardless of whether they are happy, sad, tired, or bored. You must treat your work with the same professional gravity. Your deep work sessions should not be creative explorations that depend on your mood. They should be mechanical events. When the clock strikes 8 a.m., the machine turns on. The person with the feelings and the worries and the itch for distraction is still there, but they are no longer in control of the hands. Section 3. The fallacy of being ready. We are conditioned by movies and stories to believe in the moment of inspiration, that flash of light where everything becomes clear and focus becomes easy. We spend our lives waiting to feel ready. Here is the truth: ready is a lie. You will never feel truly ready to do the hard work. Your brain is biologically programmed to keep you safe and comfortable. Hard work is neither safe nor comfortable. Therefore, your brain will always provide you with a feeling of resistance. It will always tell you that you need more coffee, more research, more sleep, or more time. The person who cannot be distracted understands that action creates the feeling. Motivation does not precede action, it follows it. You don't feel like focusing and then start working. You start working, and then, after 20 minutes of mechanical execution, you begin to feel focused. Momentum is the only emotional state that matters, and momentum is only birthed through movement. If you wait for the feeling, you will wait forever. If you start without the feeling will eventually show up to help you finish. Section 4. Disconnecting the heart from the hands. How do you actually execute without emotion? You practice the art of detachment. Imagine you are standing behind yourself, watching yourself work. You can hear the internal monologue of the distracted self. This is hard. I'm bored. I wonder what's on the news. I should go get a snack. In the past, you were those thoughts. When the thought said, "Go get a snack," you got up and went to the kitchen. But as a person who cannot be moved, you simply observe the thoughts. You recognize them as mental noise. You say to yourself, "My brain is currently experiencing a feeling of boredom. That is interesting. However, my hands are currently scheduled to type this report." You disconnect the heart from the hands. Your heart can be screaming, crying, or throwing a tantrum in the corner of your mind. It doesn't matter. As long as your hands stay on the keyboard, as long as your eyes stay on the page, you are winning. Focus is not the absence of distracting thoughts. It is the refusal to act on them. It is the ability to be miserable and productive at the same time. Section 5. The go signal and the protocol. To take the emotion out of execution, you need to turn your startup process into a ritual that requires zero thought. If you have to decide how to start, you are inviting emotion into the room. Instead, you need a mechanical protocol. Phone goes in the drawer. Headphones go on. Timer starts. The first sentence is written. This is not a suggestion, it is a sequence. Like a computer booting up, there is no feeling involved. It is a series of if-or-then statements. If it is 9 a.m., then the phone is in the drawer. If the timer is running, then the only window open is the work. When you make the start mechanical, you bypass the resistance phase. By the time your brain realizes it's supposed to be not feeling it, you've already been working for 10 minutes. You have already outrun your own emotions. Section 6. Focus is not a mood, it is a mechanic. We often talk about focus as if it is a vibe or a flow state that we hope to fall into. We need to change that. Focus is a mechanic. It is a physical alignment of your senses toward a single point. It is the mechanic of your eyes staying on the screen. It is the mechanic of your fingers moving the pen. It is the mechanic of your body staying in the chair. When you view focus as a mechanic, it becomes something you can do even when you're depressed, even when you're anxious, and even when you're uninspired. You don't need to be in a good mood to keep your eyes on a screen. You don't need positive energy to sit in a chair. The mindset of someone who cannot be distracted is a mindset of cold execution. It is the realization that your work is a duty, not a hobby. You are building something larger than your temporary feelings. Section 7. The Final Truth, the Unfair Advantage. As we conclude this book, I want you to look at the world around you. The world is getting softer. The world is getting more distracted. The average person is more governed by their emotions than ever before. They are offended, they are triggered, they are burnt out, and they are unmotivated. They are waiting for the world to feel right before they do what is necessary. This is your opportunity. While the rest of the world is waiting for the right feeling, you are executing. While they are checking their phones to see if they feel better yet, you are building. While they are slaves to the dopamine loop, you are the master of the mechanical process. The ability to focus is the superpower of the 21st century. It is the one skill that makes all other skills possible. If you can focus, you can learn anything. If you can focus, you can outproduce anyone. If you can focus, you can remain calm while the rest of the world is in a panic. But this superpower has a price. The price is the death of your excuses. The price is the refusal to listen to your own whining. The price is the cold, hard realization that focus is not emotional. It is mechanical. Section 8. Summary of the Undistractable Mindset. Let us review the laws of the mind you have now built. Ownership. You are not a victim. You choose your focus, or you choose your distraction. Silence. You have killed the need for noise. You have made boredom your training ground. Identity. You are not someone who tries. You are someone who locks in. Architecture. You have removed the triggers. You don't resist. You eliminate. Strength. You have trained your focus like a muscle. You stay longer than the discomfort. Singularity. You have abandoned the weakness of multitasking. You do one thing exceptionally. Law. You live by non-negotiable rules, not by fluctuating feelings. Weaponized boredom. You can sit still, and therefore, you can outwork anyone. Delayed reward. You have detached from cheap dopamine. You are building what lasts. Execution. You have detached your heart from your hands. You move regardless of the mood. Section 9. The Final Word. The book is over. The input phase is finished. Now, the output phase begins. Knowledge without execution is just another form of distraction. Reading this book was the warm-up. The real work happens the moment you put this down and face the itch of the world. Your phone will call to you. The world will try to distract you. Your own brain will tell you to take it easy. You know better now. You are a person who cannot be moved. You are a person who finishes. You are a person who locks in. Go to your desk. Close the door. Turn off the world. The final mantra. Focus is not emotional. It is mechanical. Now, execute. The end.